Who is literally the most insufferable person you've ever met? My mom. She could be as horrible and as toxic as she wanted because it was never her fault. It was always the fault of the person she was hurting/arguing with. But God forbid you stood up to her or treated her the same way she treated you. It would just be proof that you are evil and deserved her treatment. I think we have the same mom. Hey, long-lost sibling. My God, that bitch gave birth to so many of us. Same here. Wow, how many siblings are we? Like 8? Please everyone seeing this and saying, this is my mom, please check out our/Raised by Narcissists and the life-changing book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, reading for everyone, because we all have to deal with these people in the world. I'm sorry you are dealing with this. Be well. Yep, my mother too. I can feel my hair turning gray in her presence. My Uncle Eddie. He goes out of his way to make himself and those around him miserable at all times. He's like a cat waiting to pounce on a mouse, but that mouse is misery. He steers every conversation he's in that way. And if you don't indulge him in his misery, he takes that as an affront. Your uncle is a vampire. An energy vampire, the worst type of vampire. Elite ball knowledge. A Colin Robinson. Shudder. Probably hangs out with Colin trolling Facebook grapevines. Every family has an uncle like that. In my family, we would invite that uncle to spend Christmas with us because he had nowhere else to go. As the kids would open their presents, I can still picture him sitting in the room watching with his arms crossed. Had a comment for every present opened. Geez, we didn't have stuff like that in my day. That looks like it'll break easily. Hope that wasn't a lot of money, looks cheaply made. We didn't have presents like that growing up. And so on. Eventually, he stopped showing up and we couldn't be happier. My best friend's mom is exactly like this. I have known the woman for 30 years and she has never had a happy thing to say about anything. At my bridal shower my sis took one for the team and sat with her. Debbie Downer, June is a horrible month to get married. My sister, I don't know, it is a busy time of year but that is okay. Debbie Downer, if there is rain it will ruin it. Sister, it is indoors. They will be fine. Debbie, I hope so, if it gets that humid it will be too hot for anyone. My sister, that's okay. The wedding is indoors with good AC. Debbie Downer, well I hope the power doesn't go off. At that point my sister had to clock out and I don't blame her. The wedding went perfectly fine, without any freak power outages. At this point you need to outdown her. What if the power goes off? You, exactly. What if there is a power surge? Somebody could get electrocuted. Yes. We are almost certainly all going to die. Thanks for taking the time to type this out. There's a person that keeps showing up in my life randomly. Someone that was once a friend. She originally saw my past drug use and mental health spirals, and cancelled our friendship. She contacts me every single year without fail, telling me always the same thing. Kill yourself, Spartan. You're a worthless drug user, your mother hates you. You're better off dead. This person contacts me at least once a year, for the past 5 years since our friendship ended. I had gotten clean about 3 years ago, but she always says that exact same thing. Contacts me regardless on if I block her. She makes new accounts ECT. She knows I had a fractured relationship with my mom, but I know my mom doesn't want me dead as this person describes her as such. And you know what I realized? That's the singular person I hate the most in the world. This one particular person who harassed me for years. So I made it my life's mission, regardless on how bad my mental health gets, or if ever relapse. I'm going to live out of sheer spite for this person. The crazy part is that this person worked with homeless people and addicts. Not anymore, mind you. So Courtney, if you're reading this, I'm alive. You suck. Edit. Got my very first award. Thank you, kind stranger. And thank you for all the kind words, everyone. Heart with ribbon. That's not insufferable. That's flat out psychopathic. Fuck you, Courtney. My ex-wife's name is Courtney. Fuck her indeed. My abusive stepmom was named Courtney. Noticing a trend here. Congratulations on getting clean. That takes real strength. So sorry. File a restraining order. Courtney can kiss my ass. Next time, respond with, thanks for caring. Just remember that you were able to beat your addiction, but clearly she cannot beat her addiction to making other people suffer for her pleasure. No matter what she says about you, you worked on yourself to move past your traumas and issues and improve. You've accomplished something so many people in that position fail to do. Keep it up. Every day you're sober is another day you prove that you had the strength to do what Courtney never could. Be better. I have the perfect song for this, and you probably already know it, but just in case you'll get a kick out of this. Fuck Courtney. My old coworker who started every sentence with well, actually, my ex did that. I never noticed how obnoxious it sounded until we broke up. Lucky for me, my wonderful father says those 2 words every chance he gets. He even changes his voice to sound just like my ex. I've never met your dad, but I love him. Well, actually, my friend's cousin ended every sentence with, did you know that? Ugh. Oscar Martinez? Where does a mansplainer get his water from? From a well, actually. My current coworker who starts every sentence with a transparently. I have a relative who starts every sentence with a real talk. My brother starts with, few people realize. The one customer I had who, when asked if he'd like his receipt, replied with, since you're required, by law, to give it to me, yes. I wasn't holding it hostage. Just say yes, please. You giant bag of dicks. I worked as a receptionist at a sharebroking firm about 10 years ago. One afternoon a man walked in and didn't give me a chance to greet him and ask how I can help. So I said, and your name? And he said, I have already told you my name and I won't repeat it again, because he was being so loud and sounded aggressive. A colleague came out of her office to ask how she could help him and he pointed at me and said, I gave her my name and she can't help me. Where is her manager? My boss came to reception and asked this person what he wanted and he was actually there to pick up documents for one of our clients. He himself was not even a client. I am still slightly traumatized. These people lead sad, pathetic lives. They are desperate for any sliver of control. So they try to antagonize service workers who can't call them out on their shit. That's the only time in their lives that they feel like they have any control. And he definitely relishes every opportunity to say that. My roommate is this type and it drives me off the walls. It's a donut. We don't need to bring ink and paper into this. Can I be honest? It's a person I worked with who has Down syndrome. I've worked with hundreds of people with developmental disabilities, and I loved so many of them. People with Down syndrome in particular tend to have such a natural charm and give me so much joy. But this guy, in addition to the constant, well actually, interruptions, he thought women should be obedient to men in every situation. When I was asking people what obstacles they were facing, he said that his was that we didn't live in biblical times, where I wouldn't be able to be a teacher and would have to sit down and keep quiet and listen to everything he said. He was also a big harasser of the ladies. The poor women who agreed to date him were constantly crying. He was married at one point and told her she had to give all the money she made to him and he could spend it on whatever he wanted. Because it's in the Bible. I think the problem was that he took the teachings of his conservative family and church very, very literally. I know some people will react badly to this because he has special needs. But he is a person after all, and even after giving him grace and leeway and compassion, he's still at the top of my list. Sentence I never thought I'd say, you can have Down syndrome and still be a dickhead. I'm a person with a visible disability, a wheelchair, and I don't think the fact that a person has a disability excuses bad behavior if they are taught how to act right. While I try my hardest to be a disability advocate, there is a fine line when you consider the offender's age and the offense in relation to their disability. Back in junior high school we had a person with an intellectual disability who would hide underneath tables trying to upskirt and touch girls. He randomly walked up to this girl and grabbed her breast. I was also in the line and I saw the whole thing. I don't know if it was on instinct or intentional, but she punched him. All of this was caught on school cameras and he had multiple victims who were all female. I used to know a guy as you described who treated women similarly based on his beliefs around the Bible. He does not have a disability and would frequently cite snippets in the Bible that he felt favored him. However, in the context of the paragraph, page, etc., he was wrong. I say used to know because this was back in college. My brother is special needs, and his specialist told us not to excuse bad behavior with his disability. Some people can just be horrible and insufferable people as well as have special needs. It's not mutually exclusive. If he lived in biblical times he wouldn't have even made it to adulthood. I'd have immediately pointed that out to him. Which is probably why I do not nor will I ever work with special needs individuals. Anyone can be an asshole. I do mean anyone. Hell, my cat is an asshole. My worst enemy is a woman who is developmentally delayed. She is racist, weird, and sexually harasses me. She says the most bizarre stuff all the time. Disabled people can also be terrible people. As someone with 2 autistic brothers, one pretty severe, it's not an excuse to be an asshole. Treating people with disabilities like normal people, because they are, means they should learn proper behavior. I know both of my brothers have problematic thoughts, but they know better than to speak them out loud. I taught them not to. I've worked with a lot of adults with ID. They're not automatically lovable. This guy in the photography scene in my hometown. The first time I met him, He started listing off all of his accomplishments, which was both tiresome and hilariously funny because it was all lies. But if you call him out on it, he gets really angry and confrontational. For example, there is a German photography company that has a reputation as the greatest camera manufacturer in the world, Leica, and this guy upon first meeting me said that he helped design lenses for Leica. He fools a lot of people because of his confidence. But it's all a house of cards. I saw him again a couple of weeks ago and he didn't remember me at all, probably because he doesn't remember anyone unless they can serve him in some way. And he told me, no joke, that all of the wineries in the valley where I live were all named after him and his family members. This is so easy to confirm false, that people laugh in his face about it and he just doubles down. He has become somewhat convincing through practice to people who are gullible, but he's just a total joke around town, and he is completely unaware of how much people have contempt for him and ridicule him behind his back. He is unshakable in his confidence in his lying, so much so that he should probably run for office. Oh man, I met a guy like that once at an outpatient facility for mental health I was a patient at back in 2021. He was the principal dancer at San Francisco Ballet, the head choreographer for Beyoncé and Lady Gaga, was a dance instructor at Juilliard, among other things. I believed the first thing he mentioned, but as the list got longer I realized he was just a pathological liar. Was this photographer's name George Santos? My father. He's a know-it-all that claims to be smarter than Einstein and tried to shove Scientology down my throat. And my former coworker who constantly chewed with her mouth open. I met Bill O'Reilly one time. He's every bit as awful IRL as you think. His ex-wife was a classmate of mine. Nicest person you'd ever want to meet. How she ended up with that Duchicano is beyond me. Thank goodness she escaped. He tried to get her excommunicated from their church, and physically abused her in front of the kids. My downstairs neighbor. He's the definition of performative niceness. Like, if he holds the door open for you, he'll announce it loudly and then repeat it until you respond with a level of gratitude he deems sufficient. If you don't, he'll start explaining how it inconvenienced him, but he did it anyway, out of the kindness of his heart. It's so fucking annoying. Also, if you ever mention a problem around the building or a personal issue like something broken or misplaced, he immediately goes into defense mode. Well, I didn't do that. Couldn't have been me. Even when it obviously wasn't him and couldn't have been him. It's like his instinct is to clear his name preemptively, and it's so obnoxious. He also claims to be an expert in absolutely everything. According to him, he's a former government PC programmer, an elite hacker, a police K-9 trainer, a classified military operative from Afghanistan and Iraq, a nearly doctor who decided he was better suited for something else. Really, the man has had more careers than a Barbie doll at this point, apparently. And as if that wasn't obnoxious enough, he uses these alleged credentials to give the most unhinged, unsolicited advice imaginable. Like when my puppy first started leash pulling, he said, "You should pull him back and smack him every time he does that. That's what I did at the academy." WTF? I told him I hadn't asked, and my trainer and I were handling it, and he shouldn't be around dogs if that is what he believes. OFC, this made him angry, so he sat there just yelling about how he knew better than some trainer and how when he trained dogs they would be potty trained and never pulled on leash past the age of 2 weeks. Like, I hate him. 2 weeks? They don't even open their eyes until then. And he wants you to believe he had them housebroken and leash trained? Worked at a grocery store when I was a kid. This lady would legit come in every day to bully the staff. We would all hide from her out back when she arrived. Eileen, to customer service, was our secret PA code to alert the staff. Fuck you Eileen, not her real name. Capelli D'Angelo is actually angel hair pasta. And I'm not looking out back for the real angel hair, you cunt. I had a few customers like this at the last store I was at. I wish we had that kind of code. This one lady just came in to complain and tell us how we did everything wrong. How this item was not actually in the aisle, where it is, how we scan her items wrong. We bag them wrong, we look wrong. God, front-end retail is hell. Guy I used to work with always had to one-up me, specifically, and did it so blatantly that I didn't even seem crazy for pointing it out. I've got a D&D campaign going where we're all level 5. Well, I've got a D&D campaign going where we're all level 15. Or, I used to have a 3D printer, but it broke a while ago. Well, I've had 5 3D printers. Or, my car broke down, so a friend of mine is going to sell me her junker for $500 just so I can still get to where I need to go. Well, I've bought several cars for $500. Just on and on no matter what I would say. Literally everyone hated the guy and we all breathed a sigh of relief after he left. I had a friend who was a compulsive liar like this. One time I decided to have a little bit of fun with it. I started making up stories just because I knew he would have to one-up them, and after a couple of these, he finally realized what was going on and got super mad and embarrassed, and I didn't have to deal with him again for several weeks. I saw this happen at work once between a guy who was the liar and one of my coworkers. They were discussing what they did over the weekend. Coworker, I was at X beach over the weekend. Guy, lying, oh, I went there too. I think I saw you there. Coworker, oh, really? Guy, yeah. Visibly floundering, Sunday, right? Coworker, no. I went to X beach on Saturday. Guy, oh, yeah. Yeah. Saturday, that's what I meant. And he did this all the time. Just constant little lies about things so that he could be included. And never about shit that actually mattered. Like he didn't have to pretend to be at that same beach, he could have just talked about it the normal way. He was also an inveterate blabbermouth, which is bad enough on its own but so toxic when combined with the lying. I used to have a 3D printer, but it broke a while ago. Well, I've had 5 3D printers. PSSH, wake me up when you get a 4D printer. We have a saying for people like him in the UK, if you tell him you're going to Tenerife, he's going to 11 Rife. A coworker at my old job, the literal living definition of an anime-obsessed neckbeard. He openly admitted to thinking of an anime girl as his wife in front of the owners of the company. I knew someone who went through a huge weeb phase. He felt comfortable with telling my friend that he only went to someone's party because he heard a Japanese person was gonna be there. A girl he had literally never even met. Went to a party once, imagine small town Ohio, I was the only Asian female there. A guy goes up to my then boyfriend and asks while pointing at me, "Where do you find yourself one of those, woman facepalming?" Amusing. We had this guy named Zach who was a massive brony back when that was at its zenith. He had this thing where he would talk about ponies non-stop, but what got him shit-canned was his flash drive, which had an AutoXX script that, when run on a Windows 7 computer, would automatically change the theme to My Little Pony, complete with a resplendent cursor of Rainbow Dash that was emanating glitter, that giggled when you clicked. The icons and wallpaper would also be changed. He did this to promote IT people locking their workstations. Well, he did that to one of our sysadmins, and that was the end of that. My mother. I've actually yelled that exact sentence to her before. She's so nice to people, but behind closed doors, I'm her scapegoat. I think you are my sibling, one of my neighbors. She will knock on my doors at all times of the day. I stopped answering the door. One day I went for a walk and found her sitting on my patio chair. There's a little girl on my street who needs friends and always comes around to play with our dog. That would be whatever, but she's always pushing for more. She wants to come in and get a drink or use the bathroom and I'm not comfortable with that. I just don't want a random kid in my house. She's a high-pressure salesman about it all and I can't deal with her. I hide when she comes around. Sounds like she may have a difficult home life. People who get angry at you for getting mad at them for doing some shitty thing that you totally caught them at. Like spreading rumors about you or not repaying you money you lent them and they make you the butthole because you want it back. I recently saw someone explain that narcissists get mad at you for confronting them about what they did because unlike sociopaths/psychopaths, they do feel empathy but don't know how to regulate it. So you make them feel guilty, and I suppose because of their low emotional intelligence, they get mad at you for giving them that uncomfortable feeling instead of dealing with the problem in a better way. Like, how can you make me feel this bad feeling? You are a bad person for giving this feeling to me, even if it was their fault you're confronting them. These people are just impossible to deal with and you just need to cut them out of your life. Sadly my sister is like this, but I avoid her as much as I possibly can. A woman who told me, "I understand boys better than you do because I have 2 sons and you don't." I'm a man. I can only imagine how much I would be called a mansplainer if I were to tell a woman, "I understand girls better than you do because I have 2 daughters and you don't." I once had a boss tell me he understood women more than I do because he'd been married to one longer I'd been alive. Ask him how many years he has had a uterus. I would burst into flames if a man said this to me. I had a BF tell me he knew more about being a woman than me because he grew up close to his mom and sister. I am a woman with a very close mother and 2 sisters. People are so weird. I have 2 sons now and would never say that shit. I literally avoided insufferable people from college age on up, but in high school the daughter of the head of our music department was so awful. She was a really good clarinetist. But she would never stop bragging about how she could play every difficult clarinet piece flawlessly, how she would be a shoe-in to Juilliard, etc., etc. She had the most expensive high-end clarinet made by Buffet which she called Buffy. Her bubble was burst when she tried out for our statewide youth orchestra and only got second chair. I got fourth chair, but I was happy that I was picked at all. She complained constantly about having a headache the day we tried out, how the proctor was rude and hated her mother, her reed got a split in it, on and on. Would not shut up about that or anything else. I tried to avoid her, but in school orchestra I was placed next to her. I eventually gave up orchestra and went into drama, where I could romp around with the cool weirdos and the even cooler gay drama kids. The irony of going into drama to avoid drama. In 2004, I had a birthday party for my little girl. I invited a few of her friends from childcare. I'd met all the mums before, we weren't friends prior to this. Just friendly, I didn't know their names but I knew whose mum they were. Anyway, one of them was being really obnoxiously obvious about her brand new flip phone. 2004 remember. I had a mobile phone but it was probably on charge in my bedroom during the party. Nobody else had their phones out. Nobody cared what brand your mobile phone was, in those days. Anyway, when it became obvious that none of us were interested in her fancy phone, she made a video call to her husband in front of us all. It was super awkward, not to mention the call was glitchy the whole time and they couldn't hear each other properly. It made her look like a right pillock. Anyway, she's the first person I think of when I hear the word insufferable. My sister. She is really smooth at bringing people under her control. My dad died a year ago, and that is when the shit hit the fan. I haven't spoken to her in over a year, fuck that bitch. Edit. My dad was in rehab after he fell. He wasn't going to last a long time. But she took it upon herself to move him to hospice and didn't ask/tell anyone, not even mom. A couple weeks later, he was dying. I was there the final night. She crawled into bed with him and I got the fuck out of there. Final straw. She sent out a video at 3 a.m. of his last gasping breaths. She said that she wanted everyone to know what she was going through. That's when I really encountered a true martyr. I'm so sorry about how horrible your sister is, and I'm sorry for the loss of your dad. My SIL is a, well actually, person, but she doesn't actually know a whole lot. She frequently gives monologues on higher education/college, and how to be a successful student, but was kicked out of 3 programs due to her failing GPA. None of her advice is actually a good idea. Examples are make friends with your professors. Answer every time the professor asks a question, even if you don't know the answer. If you're late to class, explain why as soon as you arrive. She offers tons of childcare advice based on the 2 weeks she worked in a daycare before she was fired for not following the policies. She is a cooking/baking critique to the highest degree, even though Easy Mac is too complicated most days. Like when I make lasagna, I use fresh herbs, it makes it taste so much better. When was the last time she made lasagna from scratch? Never. The last time she made it, my brother actually did a frozen lasagna, but she did sprinkle parsley on it, so many that counts? I question my brother's sanity most days. A girl I knew from my first job out of high school constantly talked shit about everyone. I think she was angry from getting pregnant at 14 by a deadbeat. I had a childhood best friend who has always been someone you could describe as annoying and kinda dickish. But at the same time, paradoxically, he has the capacity to be very nice when he feels like it. So if you had asked me 3 years ago if he is insufferable, I would have said no. I would have said he was the best guy I knew. But over the past few years he has done the following. At every gathering he is invited to with my family, he will be nice for 15 minutes. And the minute he does not get his way on anything he will sulk and ruin the mood for everyone. Like the last Thanksgiving we saw him, he threw a fit and left unannounced because I did not want to play Mario Kart with him. I was very sleepy from eating a lot of food. Sue me. He yelled at me and called me an asshole because while on a trip together, I wanted to take a small break because I am out of shape and was having trouble keeping up with all the walking we were doing. I was not stopping him from going on his own, I just needed a small breather and would have caught up with him later, but instead he stormed off. And when I found him again later he just tore me a new one. We did make amends, and why, but we remained close after that. I was visiting him at his house when he got into an argument with his mother. Both parties were in the wrong. She had thrown away some of his property out of anger, and in retaliation he smashed her TV. I made the stupid mistake of butting in and trying to defuse the situation, not taking either side. And in response he just went red and started trying to attack me. His mom held him back and told me to leave. After that we stopped being in contact with each other for a long while. After about 2 years of no/low contact I made the idiotic decision to invite him to my graduation celebration. Things had been really calm by that point and I honestly thought things would be okay. I know you are probably reading this thinking I am an idiot. but I was very naive and blinded by our positive childhood memories. He got into an argument with someone at the party, I'm not even sure what about, and it resulted in him pushing and hitting multiple people. He then repeatedly punched and made some significant damage to my uncle's motorcycle, which resulted in a neighbor making an anonymous call to the police. He spent 2 nights in custody before being released. Within an hour of being released, he called me and blamed me for calling the police. I did not, but TBH I should have, and called me a bitch. He did not say anything I could legally call a threat, but the implication was there. He then called my brother to apologize, but also blamed me for making him mad by not being on his side during the altercation. He basically argued that it was my fault he lashed out. He never called me to apologize to me. I have never heard from him since. But that night still remains one of the worst nights in my memory, because I was genuinely afraid he was going to seriously hurt or kill me or one of my family members. Luckily nobody was hurt, just some minor property damage. There was a guy in my art school class. This dude only ever wore nothing but a basketball tank top, shorts, and sneakers. And he was also completely bald besides a rat tail on his head that wasn't even braided. Majority of his artworks were just gore. Nothing else. Just gore. He often spent class time sitting on his phone and loudly watching YouTube. During my friend's presentation, my friend asked us to all sit on the floor so she wouldn't have to make eye contact. Everyone sat on the floor except for this guy, who just stood there and watched his phone the whole time. One of my artworks included a pile of paper on the floor that I had taped up a square for in yellow tape so people could see it. This guy proceeded to walk right through it and step on my artwork. It cost me like $2 to make, so I don't care that much. During a life drawing lesson, we had a male model. This guy wasn't present for the teacher giving us the basic rules: don't talk to the model while he's posing, keep your phones away, etc. This guy not only shows up late, but when he does show up, he sees the naked model, and very loudly goes, "AUGH. I did not need to see that." And repeats that until he gets a response. Me and another friend were talking about body piercings. Quietly, mind you, because it was during class. This guy butts into the conversation and starts describing videos of piercing infections that he saw in very graphic detail, making me and my friend uncomfortable. He also never wore deodorant. In QLD Australia, my brother-in-law, he is the biggest piece of shit I've ever met. He cheated on his wife 10 times and then bragged about abusing her. He hit on me/sexually harassed me multiple times despite me being in a committed relationship with his brother. He abandoned 2 large dogs and an elderly cat at my house. We were pet sitting them and he decided he just didn't want them back. Those animals were also badly neglected and abused by him. He lets his cats shit and piss all over his house, and his upstairs bathroom literally has a mountain of cat shit in his bathtub. He's a deadbeat dad. He met a recovering alcoholic on Tinder, got her drunk, and essayed her. He hits on every woman he meets and thinks every single woman is attracted to him. He looks like a human version of Chicken Little. But the most insufferable thing he does is lie about his time in his military. He spent his entire time in the army stationed in upstate New York and got dishonorable discharge for mouthing off to an officer. Every time he talks about it, the lies get more and more ridiculous. It's gotten so bad that he has lied about killing a child in Iraq. American Sniper is such a triggering movie for me. The know-it-all who got their job through nepotism and then tries to make others look bad so they can look good/like they accomplished a lot. I know someone who lived off his family money and has never been able to hold down a job because any difficulty or disagreement in said job is something he can't handle and quits. He is the first person to give his unasked for opinion on anything. He went for 3 degrees and never graduated anywhere and likes to bring up stuff he learned in college circa 1996. His upbringing taught him he would be a leader of many. He failed, and is making everyone he meets pay for it, because it's the world's problem for not recognizing his brilliance. All the people that will turn every damn conversation talking point toward their 1 or 2 favorite topics, no matter the stretch. Speaking of stretches, I had a really good CrossFit session the other day. Gosh yes. I had an old school friend I kept in vague touch with, and a few weeks ago there was a film festival in the city they'd moved to. I asked if they'd like to go with me and they agreed. I had no idea how bad they'd gotten in the years we hadn't seen each other in person. I wanted to talk about the film we'd literally just seen. The entire reason we were spending time together. It was like talking to a doll with a pull string that could only talk about their favorite TV show. No connection, no interest in anything coming out of my mouth. Just, have I shown you this clip from my show/anecdote about actor from my show/I made an edit, look at it. It was a nightmare. The worst part was when I went to use a bathroom and asked them to watch my drink and bag with my phone and wallet. I came back to an empty table, my drink and things unsupervised because they spotted someone across the room wearing a fandom shirt and just had to talk to them. That was more important than me potentially having my things stolen or being drugged. They'd taken their own drink and bag. Of course. The film festival was 3 days. I went home the next morning, soured on the whole thing. I don't get why they agreed to come when they had no interest in it whatsoever. I can only assume they'd driven everyone else in their life insane with their constant nonsense and needed someone else to monologue at. My estranged father who turned religious after my parents' divorce and an aneurysm, blood on the brain can do some serious damage, is exactly a case of turning the conversation to their favorite topics. In exact order almost every freaking time. Women, devil, vagina, money, Rosie Palm and her 5 sisters, a whole hand, God, Jesus, the revelations, marijuana, my mother, this one moves around. Depending on the day, locker rooms. It's been over a decade since I've last seen or heard from him. I doubt his rhetoric has changed. He liked to play the victim card, not for the aneurysm but for everything else in his life. He often tells his mom/my grandma, I didn't ask to be born, or that he is in his situation because family took advantage of his money. They didn't, for example. NGL my best friend. Dude, can be such a nice guy but he can also just be a raging asshole who is super condescending and rude and always thinks he's right. Wow, I can only imagine how bad your not best friends are. Yeah, this is my best friend, too. Sweet and supportive to the people she loves. But God forbid a waiter accidentally mess up something in her meal, she turns into the most frigid, stuck-up asshole. There's absolutely no reason for it either. She worked in the service industry herself. 4 years. She is very type A and in general can be blunt, but she never aims that at family or close friends. She just has absolutely no filter when it comes to talking to anyone in a customer service role, and absolutely no friendly instincts with strangers. Incidentally, I don't go to restaurants with her anymore. I haven't met him, but I know it's Jared Leto. I almost woke my husband up laughing at this. For a nominal fee you can join his cult. I'm kidding, no one should be exposed to that. Boomer boss got hired in from another department and criticized how to do my job that I've been doing well for 2 years. I automated a few of my tasks and helped my coworkers to automate theirs to be able to process jobs more accurately. She mentioned during the performance review that I had already made too much money and didn't give me a raise when everyone else did. Left the job a few months later with 30% higher comp, and I heard that she got let go few months after. Probably couldn't do my job that I coached her how to do in a step-by-step instruction. Tucker Carlson. He's exactly the self-important, entitled, human boat shoe that you think he would be. Storytime kids. I used to be a liberal talking head on Fox News Channel, back when they at least pretended to allow opposing views, so I spent a lot of time in the FNC green rooms in DC. The first time we met, I had done a segment on Fox Business with Neil Cavuto, one of the few intellectually honest people left at Fox. And while there I got a call to stay later to do a FNC show, I forget which one. Tucker didn't have his own show yet. It was after MSNBC but before he had his own show. So he just kind of hung around the studios all day, writing bits and going on shows. Anyway, I'm sitting there waiting and I'm watching the monitors. Obama just won the election and the show was a panel discussing, that is, slamming, his cabinet picks. Tucker didn't say much, but near the end of the show he suggested that Obama should choose McCain, whom he's just defeated, as his Secretary of State. He was clearly trolling and it threw the whole segment into turmoil. Segment ends and goes to commercial, and Tucker walks back into the green room and I give him one of these. Mail sign, like WTF dude? And he's just laughing and says, I wasn't getting anything in, so I had to do something to get some FaceTime. It was at that moment that I realized. He didn't care about what he says, he just cared about how he says it. Year or two later, by now, he has his show. I never was on it, but I was doing enough with Cavuto on FBC and Greta on FNC. That our paths crossed a lot in makeup and green rooms. So, we didn't know each other, but I was a face that was familiar to him. Head nods in the hallway, if you will. It's late. I'm alone in the green room, about to go into makeup. Carlson walks in with another guy and they've just returned from some Fox corporate event and they are going on and on about the new talent. After a few minutes I realize they are talking about new young female employees. After a few more minutes they're just blatant about this. Wildly inappropriate, but many people in that business are, but this was so much worse. It was delivered in a giggly little preteen boy way, like Elizabethan court women tittering into their kerchiefs. Unreal, and very fucking weird. As if he's assuming that all other men are also secretly giggling little douche nozzles, like he is. never had an interaction with him that felt normal, or was anything other than utterly self-important and insufferable. Edit, grammar, spelling. Thank you for the tea.